So I should have thought about this a lot more, or even at least looked at a calendar before I started, but you know, when I thought of, hey, I need to review an entire franchise in its entirety in chronological order, and I picked Friday the 13th, and in my simple little mind, I thought the date Friday the 13th only came up once a year, so that only meant one movie for me to review once a year. Well, no, we have two Friday the 13th in the same year, and one of them being in the month of December, so since we're going in chronological order, I'll be reviewing Friday the 13th Part 2, and in this case, maybe considered a Christmas movie. With the success of the original Friday the 13th making a major profit, the film cost $550,000 and the movie managed to make $51 million at the box office. Well, since that original film made a big chunk of change, a sequel was pretty much inevitable. And the creators of the Friday the 13th film were kind of following the footsteps of John Carpenter, what he initially wanted to do with the Halloween series, which would have been treating the films more like an anthology series, just focusing on the date itself and different things happening on the date, and having no connection to the previous film that came before. And just like Halloween, Friday the 13th had producers and they wanted the stories to connect, and they also wanted to have the focus on somebody else. No, not him. They wanted to focus on the killer from the town that dreaded sundown.
You're probably thinking Jason's so overcome with grief that he started to drink. But no, that's really him right there.
Now, I don't know if this is fact or fiction, but I've heard that the legs that we see right here walking are actually not Jason or the actor that played Jason, Steve Dash, but actually the legs of a woman from someone that's on production, kind of similar to like what they did in the original Halloween, where Deborah Hill was playing young Michael Myers at the beginning of the film, using her POV shots and her hands for most of the scenes. I always wondered how Jason was able to find and stalk Alice. It's not like he knew her name, and it's not like he was following her on social media. So you're telling me nobody in this neighborhood noticed a rather large man dressed up like a hillbilly biker wearing a potato sack for a mask holding a severed head? Now I feel pretty stupid because after saying that out loud and after 30-something plus years of watching this movie, I kind of just figured it out. Most likely Jason was walking around holding the sack with his mother's head in it and not wearing it. Shortly after that, Jason stumbles upon Alice's apartment while she's having nightmares of Friday the 13th Part 1. Now here's an odd and interesting fact. After filming Friday the 13th Part 1, actress Adrienne King had issues with the stalker of her own, so when requested to film Friday the 13th Part 2, she requested for a smaller part. So our production had our final girl character being stalked by a madman who's scoping out her pad and manages to break into her house unnoticed.
Mom.
I defeated a killer, now her psycho son's after me, I better lock the door. Now where's my head? I've only been having nightmares about it the whole time. And yeah, I should probably lock the windows too.
Hey, where's the cream filling?
Get ready for a surprise!
Honestly, how and where in the hell was Jason hiding where she obviously could not see him? Mama's boy, homicidal maniac, but Jason manages to believe in safety in the home. He must have watched the same exact PSA I did as a kid about safety within your kitchen. Okay, that is really misleading because there are no explosions in this franchise until Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. It has been 5 years since that scene where Alice just got stabbed in the head and Camp Crystal Lake is open, and now we got some new horny teens wanting to be camp counselors. Hey, we still got local legend Crazy Ralph, and he's still trying to warn horny young teenagers about going to Camp Crystal Lake, but also manages to be very vague about it.
We'll probably all get a brownie badge to wear if we survive.
If we survive?
That's alright.
Hell, even Jason chopped down a tree and dragged it to the middle of the road to keep all the riffraff out.
Let's move it.
This place is spooky.
Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, 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 no. Alright, so let's meet the rest of the cast. Alright, so we have our funny guy, we have a Ryan Phillippe lookalike, and we also have Sandra, Rob's sister from Friday the 13th, Part 4. We have Paul, he's the local town crier and also the lead counselor. We have Mark and Vicky, and then we have these two.
Benny!
Wait a minute, where's the real clip? And those two were Scott and Terry, and the rest of you are extras with no speaking lines, so it doesn't really matter. Ah, and here comes our final girl. It really looks like Ralph is saying, hey, aren't you Amy Steele, that final girl from April Fool's Day? Personally, I would have said, aren't you Amy Steele from the classic movie, Walk Like a Man? Paul is going over the curriculum with the counselors in training, and he brings up something that comes up a few times within this franchise, which are bears. Bears have come up a few times in this franchise, and yet we've never seen a bear, let alone Jason fighting a bear. Camp counselors are settling in, and Jason is stalking the campground, but he manages to meet Terry's dog, Muffin, which I'm pretty sure he does manage to kill. These two knuckleheads decide to go trespassing into Camp Blood, where the previous murders happened 5 years ago, but they get caught by the local police department. As the sheriff is driving away from the campsite, he hits Bigfoot with his car. No, but it is kind of a Bigfoot moment because we do see Jason skipping along across the road. This is back in the early days when Jason believed in cardio, and this is early in the franchise when he actually used to run a lot. The sheriff makes his way into Jason's bone shack and discovers Jason's hidden secret. Yeah, Jason found that clip very stupid too. Instead of being useful and warning these young horny teenagers that Jason is loose in the woods killing people, Ralph decides to become a peeping Tom, and that triggers his death by Jason. So the next evening, all the extras and a few of the counselors decide to go into town to wet their whistle. While everyone's getting drunk at the bar asking who invented the question mark, Jason is hanging back at the cabin. And Vicky is using some of her best pickup lines right here.
I only want your fingers.
Meanwhile, Terry decides to go swimming naked at the lake, but if you listen closely, you could hear the musical composer Harry Manfredini playing the subtle theme from Jaws. Jason kills off Terry and Scott, and meanwhile, back at the bar, Jenny is psychoanalyzing Jason Voorhees. Vicky decides she's gonna rock Mark's world with some brown panties. Poor bastard. Poor Mark, he's like, Vicky, I'm ready to see those brown panties now, please. Then, boom! Again, how was Jason hiding, especially in that angle? How did Mark not see him? Then Vicky over here is waiting patiently for her turn to die. I'm kind of curious what color those panties are now. Paul and Ginny decide to head back to the camp while the rest of the crew are hanging back at the bar. It's almost like debauchery saved their lives. Ginny and Paul discover that the camp is completely empty except for their weed.
These kids smoke better dope than I do.
Ginny's spider senses are tingling and she could feel Jason in the room. You know, I really gotta give it to Paul for putting up a good fight against Jason, while Ginny really likes the sound of Paul's name.
Paul?
Alright, let's get ready for the final showdown. Ginny gives a great field goal kick to Jason's nards. Jason has nards! They take a stroll in the woods while Ginny finds a cabin and decides to hide underneath the bed. And after all that, Ginny decides to blow it. Jason is actually pretty clumsy in this movie, but he's also very naive. Ginny makes her way to Jason's love shack and she finds Jason's secret, which is his mother's severed head. And if you look closely on the floor, you can see the rotting corpse of our final girl, Alice. Ginny probably figures, hey, any blonde could be his mom, and you know what? She was actually right. Ginny simply wearing his mother's sweater really confuses him because he starts imagining things that his mother used to tell him.
Little girls are the devil.
Paul somehow manages to find Jason's pad and yet starts fighting with him again. You really gotta give it to Paul for putting up multiple fights against Jason. And here comes Ginny moving really slow. But then she manages to kill Jason with his weakness, the Vulcan neck pinch. All is well. Ginny and Paul decide to take off Jason's sack and reveal that he has split ends. Two make their way back to another cabin to relax and wait for authorities, but then they hear a knock at the door.
I don't think so.
What? Muffin? Now, this is a great jump scare sequence, and it's been up for debate for a very long time, and as I've gotten older, I kind of debated about it myself. Because was this entire sequence just a dream or even a gag, how like in the original film, Jason popping out of the water was supposed to be just a jump scare gag? What happened to Paul? Did he go and fight off Jason if this really happened, or did it not happen at all, and Paul was probably just in another ambulance, hanging out, waiting for Ginny? Friday the 13th Part 2 was a success with a slightly bigger budget of $1.25 million and earning $21 million at the box office. Meaning that this was the last film in the franchise. While Friday the 13th Part 2 is very similar to the previous film, it does not have the whodunit approach. And to be honest, I don't mind not having the whodunit approach. I actually really dig the simplistic slasher vibe that it has. Through the years, Friday the 13th Part 2 has become one of my favorite installments within the franchise. The film isn't perfect, but still I think it is well crafted. I like the fact that it's very raw, it's very simplistic, and honestly it feels like junk food for the soul. In the last few years, I started declaring that Friday the 13th Part 2 was the first installment in the Jason trilogy. I'll go into more details on that in the next video. And if you actually watched this video in its entirety, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Were you entertained? Was I boring? Was I stupid? Was I annoying? What is your ranking for this film in the entire franchise? Please comment below and let me know. Alright, I'm Mike the Movie Misfit. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the movies.